So welcome to the first SAG meeting, or SOG meeting. That is going to be one of the things we have to decide tonight, since apparently there's a lot of different names for this. But welcome and thank you. As we kind of go on this adventure together, it is a real amazing opportunity to kind of help shape our city and our downtown. And it's going to take some work, and it's going to take some hours. And so I appreciate, the rest of the city team really appreciates the time commitment that you're giving tonight and that you will be giving in the future. So thank you very much. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. For the public, there are public comment cards if you wish to speak at the end, so you can fill those out. And Lauren over here will be collecting those. Second thing is parking. There is parking validation in the back, so if anyone's parked downstairs, please make sure that you get parking validated before you leave for the night. So because we have kind of a tight agenda for our first orientation together, or the only orientation together, I do want to get started. Throughout this process, you're going to meet a number of city staff, planning department, transportation department, but there's kind of a core group of folks, including myself, that I just want to introduce that you're going to see a lot of throughout this process. So my name is Lee Wilcox, and I'm the Chief of Staff for the City Manager's Office, and leading the civic engagement process for kind of the Diridon Station area. So this group and a number of other meetings that we'll touch upon later. We have Kim Wallish, our Deputy City Manager and Director of Economic Development, who will be presenting shortly. Nancy Klein, our Director of Real Estate, there in the back. Lauren Haley, our Real Estate Manager, and is graciously helping out on notes and kind of logistics tonight as well. Thank you. Bill Eckern, the Diridon Project Manager. Oh, he's home taking care of a cat. And then as we kind of enter into this process, the city did put out a request for proposal, or what we would call an RFP, to solicit some help on kind of helping shape the civic engagement process and facilitating some of these meetings. And these two gentlemen are with us tonight. So Dave Javid from Plan to Place, you will see him tonight and throughout this process, and then Matt Ramey from Ramey & Associates. So these are kind of here to help the city through this process. I'm going to ask them to come up and kind of walk through the agenda. But what we hope to do tonight is really kind of orient you to one another, orient you to what we're going to be doing together, and then give a little bit of background and context into where the city's at and some of the planning efforts thus far. We will spend a little bit of time starting to kind of shape our work together. But again, we really want you to focus on one another tonight and how we're all going to work. So with that, Dave?
Thank you, Lee. Great to meet you all. Welcome, everyone. I just want to walk us through the agenda real quickly, and then we'll jump into the program here. So, excuse me, as Lee mentioned, we're going to start with a background and opportunity just to kind of set the context, give you a sense of planning efforts that have been done to date, what the purpose of you all being here is tonight, and how that information will be used moving forward. And then also talk a little bit about roles and responsibilities, which we'll get into. And then we also want to do who we are, an ice-breaking exercise with you all. So we'll break out into groups, and we'll do a quick exercise just to understand what some of your hopes and fears are, what you'd like to see moving forward, and that'll help inform the next stage in the process and the meetings that we get to. We'll also do a how will we work together, which is really important. We want to understand what the group agreements are, make sure that we set a course here that is very transparent but is also very respectful, so we all work together effectively, and we'll kind of work on that set of agreements together. And then we're going to open it up for public comments, so there'll be plenty of opportunity for everyone here to provide comments. As Lee mentioned, there's comment cards that can be filled out. And then we'll talk a little bit about next steps, when the next meeting is, and what to expect moving forward. And we'll hopefully wrap it up right around 9. So thank you very much, and I'm going to hand it over to Kim.
Great. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kim Wallish. I'm the Deputy City Manager for the City of San Jose. And I just wanted to say, I woke up this morning so excited to begin this chapter of community engagement. It's really the next chapter of community engagement about the Diridon Station area. And as a Deputy City Manager, one of my responsibilities is the future of downtown, including this area, and it's probably the one I'm most passionate about. So I just really want to extend a personal thank you to all of you who volunteered or were volunteered to serve on the SAG, and just a special thank you to everybody who is also the community members who are with us tonight. What I thought I would do is I want to make a few key points. I have 4 that really are background about why we're here and why we need your input. So the first point I want to make is that, and this is really awkward, you guys okay if I stand here so I can try to talk with everybody? Okay, I think that's better. The first point I want to make is that this is an opportunity to work on a project that can be truly transformational to our city. This is not a typical situation. This is really a big opportunity. And let me just share a few reasons why I feel that way. The first is, I think we all know, there's an opportunity to dramatically improve transit access. When we have BART, when we have electrified, more frequent Caltrain, when we have high-speed rail, this will be the most active transit center in the entire Bay Area. And it will be one of the nation's most busiest intermodal hubs. We're going to see an 8-fold increase in the number of people coming through our station in our downtown 10 years from now. So this is a huge opportunity for us to do this right and shape the future of our city. The second, this is clearly an opportunity for great urban placemaking. If you look at the chart here, the green area is the area we're referring to as the Diridon Station area. So you can see it's a very large area. And this is really the opportunity to expand our downtown westward and create a great urban destination that is a mix of homes and offices and shops and entertainment and great public spaces and amenities. And I just love that the Diridon Good Neighbor Committee, earlier on, they were just so right on when they said, quote, "This is one of the most significant opportunities for placemaking in San Jose." I also think this is an opportunity for us to shape a new kind of urban tech workplace that really integrates with and contributes to a real city. I don't know if you guys know this, but it's been over 22 years since a tech company has been interested in developing in downtown San Jose. And I need to give a shout out to Ernst and Adobe as a pioneer. And I think we all know since then, the model in the rest of Silicon Valley has been these tech campuses that have been closed and apart from the city and the community, and maybe even been anti-city in some ways. So I think, and I know we have a great opportunity here to really work to create a new kind of tech environment that really integrates and wants to be here because we are a real city. A counterexample, if you will, to the spaceship in Cupertino and those other Silicon Valley models. The last opportunity I see, and this is very important to me personally, is I think we have opportunity to create a new model for inclusive urban prosperity. I think we can be the city that tries to and does crack the code on how you can have significant economic growth and be a high opportunity city for lower income residents. I think we all know that growing income inequality and growing inequality of opportunity is a key national issue. Let's create new models and contribute to figuring out how to do this right in San Jose. So these are just some of the opportunities I see, and I know you'll see others. And I think it's no exaggeration to say this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I've heard people say it's once in a generation, which I guess is more than a lifetime, or once in a century. But whatever you think about it, this is big. This is opportunity for us collectively to make a big impact. So the second point I want to make is that it's clear that realizing this potential will take unprecedented collaboration over many, many years. And I just personally want to share that I really, really believe in the power of collaboration. And before I went into public service, I co-founded a community development firm. It was called Collaborative Economics. And that might seem like a strange juxtaposition, but we called the firm that because in working in many, many communities in the United States and internationally over many years, we really saw that the communities that had the ability to collaborate across sectors and interests and confront change and conflict and opportunity together, that was the secret sauce to the communities that were successful over time and those that weren't. So we really believe here that out of good conversation and healthy conflict and dialogue, that creative new solutions and possibilities are born. And I want to say we're very happy to have found Dave and Matt because they share that perspective. So the third point I want to make is context, is that the work that we're going to do together, it really builds on the work of, I would say, thousands of community members who have gone before us and helped to create plans that have been approved. Do you mind if I put this here? Yeah, okay. Have created plans that have been approved by council that are really important context for the work that we're going to do. And I want to mention the most important of these. I think many of you know that in 2011, the City Council adopted the Envision 2040 General Plan. That's the highest level, most important strategy document that any city has. How many of you were involved with that? Just raise your hand, either on the task force, showing up to meetings, providing input. Excellent. So that plan does a lot of things, but I want to mention a few that are important to our conversation. First is it proactively plans for very significant growth in our community. 120,000 new housing units, 380,000 new jobs. It directs and it concentrates the growth in transit-serving areas, including downtown. And the model is of a mixed-use, walkable model that allows people to get around without having to get in cars for all of their trips. And it really emphasizes becoming a more balanced city, overcoming our jobs deficit in San Jose, so that more of us have the opportunity to work closer to where we live, and so that our city has a stronger fiscal base. So the station area and the convergence of all of this transit at Diridon is really a cornerstone of how we're going to implement the Envision 2040 General Plan. So the second plan I want to mention is, of course, the downtown strategy. How many of you have been involved with working to implement build a great downtown? Raise your hand if you've been involved. And yeah, so quite a few of us. This is really much a passion. We've had a long-awaited but not yet quite realized vision of downtown as a true city center. So this need and opportunity to double the size of our downtown and build critical mass and have a lot more housing and a lot more jobs is really a central part of the downtown vision plan that we have in place already. Now, perhaps the most important plan is the Diridon Station Area Plan. And I really want to recognize the Diridon Good Neighbor Committee, who did their work in 2009 and 2010. So this group had 31 members. They met 22 times. And they were the ones that came up with this vision of Destination Diridon. That's their phrase, Destination Diridon, as a vision of this becoming a great and favorite place. Now, were any of you in this room involved on the Diridon Good Neighbor Committee? Yeah, great. So we're going to give you some time in future meetings to really talk about that, because that was an incredible piece of work. And SOG members, you have their product in your binder, and it has great recommendations in 6 areas: in land use, neighborhood quality of life, parking and traffic, parks and trails, pedestrian and bike connectivity, public transport. This was really important community input. And what happened was the city took that input and then used that to create the Diridon Station Area Plan, which is the high-level land use plan, and the environmental clearance for development in this area. And it includes things like urban design guidelines, it includes a placemaking strategy, a public art master plan. It has all of these different elements, but it came from the Diridon Good Neighbor Committee input. And then last, I want to acknowledge, especially in the last couple years, the incredible collaboration that has gone on around creating a new station and all of the transit planning that's going to converge between our City of San Jose, high-speed rail, VTA, Caltrain, and others. So I think you can see my point is that this work that we're going to do together, it really builds on a lot of work that people in this room and others have done who have gone before us. Okay, last comment I want to make is I want to talk a little bit about the potential Google project. Because like I said, none of this is typical. So with the Google project, it was always part of the vision of implementing the Diridon Station Area Plan that we would try to attract some sort of master developer, especially for that central area near the station, so that we could have a high-quality development and a high-quality public place and not just piecemeal, right, with everybody doing their own thing. So with the Google opportunity came up last spring, it became clear that one of the needs and opportunities was for them to acquire some of the public properties in order to assemble land to have a master plan development. So I just want everybody to see, this is the map of the Diridon area. You can see the outline. It's 240 acres. And there are, in yellow, there are 5 properties, which total 6.5 acres. We call those the Sarah properties. They're owned by the successor agency to the redevelopment agency. And on the right side, there are 3 city-owned properties. So if we can go to the next slide. So we have, again, not a typical process, but we've been starting this process, which is going to lead up by the end of the year. The intention is to selling those properties to Google. So I wanted to start and talk through a little bit what the steps are. We call this phase 1. So last June, I think you know, we realized we had this opportunity, and we said, let's figure out if we can determine the fair market value price to sell those properties. So it took quite a while, because as you can imagine, it was very complicated. We had the city, we had the county, we had the appraisers, we had Google. But we hit this milestone when we came back after the holidays. And in February last month, we realized that we had agreed on a price. And so therefore, we're ready to go to the next stage. So that's actually what's triggered the opportunity to start the community engagement process. And the reason that we want and need the input is that what we're working up to by the end of the year is something called a Memorandum of Understanding. And what a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, is it's a high-level agreement that sets expectations for both parties. Expectations about, well, what would this project be? What would it look like? What amenities would it have? And what are the benefits or the positive impacts or ways to mitigate other impacts on the community? So we're going to need your input as to city staff who are going to be developing this MOU and interacting with Google. And the city council is going to need your input, because at some point by the end of the year, they're going to decide whether to approve the MOU and the purchase and sale agreement. So there's steps that we're going to be undertaking this year. And then there'll be steps we'll be undertaking for many, many years. So at this point, the Google project is just a concept. But at some point, if we keep moving forward, it will turn into a regular, clearly defined project. Then it starts moving through the normal city planning processes, so including the environmental review, which will probably take 18 months to 2 years, Then we'll have to amend the Diridon Station area plan to update it with the new thoughts. Then the high-level concepts in the MOU will get translated in a very detailed way into something called a development agreement. And then they'll be planning permits, building permits, and someday, hopefully, construction. So I just want to say there's many steps, and this phase 2 could take 2 or 3 years, and we'll start after we get through this year. So my last slide, and thank you for your patience in sharing this background with you, is that it's clear to us that this need for community engagement around the future of the station area is going to be ongoing for many years. Not that you all knew that you signed up for many years, but we are going to have a very focused process in 2018. But if you think about it, and we think about the years beyond, there's going to be a lot of other issues. We're going to be designing a new intermodal station, right? We're going to be thinking about other development. We're going to be planning for construction and parking and bike access and a whole range of things. So I just want to end by saying I'm glad we're starting tonight, and we really need your input. And we truly value your input, and thank you for your patience while I make these opening remarks.
Thank you, Kim. So there's obviously a lot going on. Lucky enough, we don't have to do it all here. We're going to be doing several different things over the next 6 months and kind of well past that. But wanted to give you a little bit of a preview so you know how you fit into the overall engagement process. And as Kim mentioned, getting the SAG together early rather than later is really important because there's a lot of important context that you need to know, that we'd like the community to know as we start to do this. But as we start to go into phase 2 and talk about BART, we start to talk about high-speed rail and a variety of other things. So that's why the start to this first. But as we move forward, specifically with kind of the near-term development goals, we are going to be hosting a variety of different engagement opportunities. Obviously, this room may not be the most conducive to a 38-member task force and public, so we're going to do our best in these meetings, but we will be going out to the community in a variety of different methods, times of day, times of the week, and avenues so that we really kind of diversify and ensure anyone who wants to participate in this process can participate. That'll take the form of online, possibly pop-up workshops, large Saturday or weekend forum where those that can't come during the week can work, as well as meetings outside of the downtown because of the impacts of this citywide. We will be bringing more back to you as we flesh this out so that you guys can comment on this and be aware of it. Because as you guys come to deal with some of these issues, it's going to be important that you know what else is going on that's just not the conversation in this room. So we'll do our best to make sure that you are aware of what's going on, but you will be more than welcome and appreciated to help participate in all of those different meetings. And as we move through this process, Kim mentioned there's a lot going on. So it's going to be important that we have a strong team on the city side, which we believe we have, and that you voice these opinions, because we do want to talk about your interests, the aspirations for this area, which are high for everyone, but also the concerns. With big change, obviously people are concerned, and we want to flesh those out. We want to ensure that perspectives are included throughout the decision-making process from anyone. So that's why we're really going to try and kind of diversify the engagement strategy as opposed to just normal tactics that have been involved in a development project in the past. So with that, we're going to pause for a little bit and ask if you have any questions before we go into the phase. One of the things that we're going to start doing, and we'll talk a little bit later, is so that you don't have to raise your hands and get attention, you just go like this, and I will go around the room so that everyone gets a chance to ask a question. All right. No questions. Sarah. And I'm sorry, use the microphone. The one thing I should have told the public and all of you, this is not being televised live tonight because we have a planning commission and we actually have technology issues that don't allow us to do live broadcasts, but it is being recorded and it will be available online. So it is important when you talk that you speak into the microphone so that we can record that accurately. Sorry, Sarah.
No problem. Just testing the microphone quality. You kind of answered my question, which was if these are going to be streamed live, are we going to try to fix that in the future, or is that an ongoing issue?
Yes, and I think we're going to talk about the schedule a little bit later. I think we've made accommodations, so this is not happening during a planning commission meeting, but we do, I believe, have some upgrades coming soon so that we'll actually, be City Hall 2.0 and be able to do 2 live broadcasts at the same time. Any other questions before we get into the first exercise? Sarah, Maria.
It's on. I just have to talk. All right. A couple of just questions or suggestions in terms of making sure that we make these meetings the most accessible as possible. 2 things that I just wanted to raise. One is a consideration around childcare and realizing that we want to have a lot of families participate in all these workshops and conversations. And then the second one being making sure that as we think about places that we're going to be having these meetings, that they're transit accessible. All for the effort to really have the most participation from our community, particularly people of color and low-income communities.
It's a great suggestion. Thank you. Yes. Sorry, my eyes can't get your name. I'm sorry.
That's all right, and it's not the right name. Matt Vandersice with Greenbelt Alliance. I'm our deputy director, and Kiyomi Yamamoto will be joining us when she returns from maternity leave. Just a question on the presentations you're providing us this evening. Will you be providing those in printed format so that we can follow along with them afterwards?
We will in the future, yes. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how we're going to work together. This is a Brown-acted group, so agendas will be posted a week in advance. In most cases, you will get this material in advance as well in the future, as we were sprinting to kind of get this orientation done. That just didn't happen today, but you will in the future.
Thank you.
Nadia.
I had a question related to Maria's question about, I noticed that the public comment was at the end, and I was wondering or going to suggest that because the meetings are long, that some of the public comment be at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can make accommodations for that. Anyone else before we move into the exercise? Okay, I'm going to turn you back over to Dave and Matt. Oh, sorry, do we have?
Yeah, I was
Sorry,
gonna-
John.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I wasn't sure if this is the right point to bring it up, but as we do, like, who are we as we go through that, would there be an opportunity for us to just kind of disclose, if we've received any subsidies or support from Google as part of that? Would that be part of our meeting or not meeting, or? It just seems like that would be kind of good to know.
Yeah, so for today, it's really about getting to know each other personally, who we're with, what we want to get out of this process. That's something we can talk about as we move forward. I do know several people have brought it up, so it is something that we'll discuss and come back before our first meeting and chat with you guys about.